The olive oil in your kitchen most likely failed a laboratory quality test, and the company that sold it to you already knows. This countdown ranks 15 bottles from worst to best, exposes the lawsuits and lab results the brands hoped you would never find, and ends with the one bottle that passed every test for about $6. Number 15. Carapelli Extra Virgin Olive Oil. The bottle says Firenze, 1893. Florence, 1893. Over a century of Italian heritage, packed into a label so beautifully designed, it practically demands you put it in your cart. What the label does not mention is that prosecutors in Turin launched a fraud investigation into Carapelli specifically for selling oils with organoleptic defects that disqualified them from the extra virgin classification. Defects that should have placed them in the lower virgin grade entirely. When independent taste panels in Florence evaluated Carapelli's oil, they found it ranked as lampante, technically unfit for human consumption under food standards. Carapelli's response was not to improve the oil, it was to sue the panel. An Italian court eventually dismissed the case, but the Florence Chamber of Commerce opted to discontinue panel testing of private party oils afterward, rather than face further legal pressure. The parent company D'Oleo was subsequently fined €300,000 by the Italian antitrust authority for marketing malpractice related to its olive oil brands. In 2016, D'Oleo issued a recall of Carapelli extra virgin olive oil across 20 states in the United States. No harvest date appears on the label. No polyphenol count is published. The heritage branding is real. The quality it implies is not. The next brand is owned by the same parent company, and it has its own $7 million lawsuit to answer for. Number 14. Bertolli Extra Virgin Olive Oil. The bottle says 1865. It says Tuscan. It says extra virgin. The University of California, Davis Laboratory said something very different, and a $7 million lawsuit filled in the rest. Bertolli's marketing leans heavily on a heritage narrative stretching back over a century and a half to the Tuscan countryside. What the front of the bottle does not mention is that the oil inside is a mass-produced blend sourced from olives grown in Spain, Greece, Turkey, and Tunisia. The Davis study subjected Bertolli to rigorous sensory evaluation and found that it failed international extra virgin standards. The defects were not borderline. Rancidity and fustiness are the kinds of flaws that represent outright disqualification under international standards, not a marginal shortfall on a technicality. Bertolli's parent company, the same D'Oleo that owns Carapelli, settled a $7 million class action lawsuit over misleading labels bearing the phrase "imported from Italy." A phrase that implied Italian origin the sourcing reality did not support. For consumers expecting the cardiovascular benefits that genuine extra virgin olive oil provides, the actual product delivers a low polyphenol blend that relies entirely on brand recognition rather than verified quality. 2 brands, 1 parent company, 2 lawsuits, 0 published polyphenol data. The next brand has no lawsuit on record, but Consumer Reports tested it, and the result was equally damaging. The rancid oil problem nobody talks about. When oil oxidizes and its fats begin to degrade, the therapeutic compounds that justify the price premium of extra virgin olive oil are the first casualties. What remains after polyphenol degradation is a cooking fat with no functional health advantage over significantly cheaper alternatives, except that it still says extra virgin on the bottle. Rancid oil does not announce itself. It looks identical to fresh oil, pours the same way, and costs the same price. The consumer has no way to know the difference without harvest date information and polyphenol data that most brands deliberately choose not to publish. For brands that know their oil would not survive independent testing, opacity is the business model. Every brand coming up will be measured against those 2 standards. And the next one has been misleading some of the most loyal grocery shoppers in America. If you have already spotted a bottle from this list in your pantry, subscribe now so you never miss another video like this one. We run exactly this kind of investigation every week, and the next expose may be sitting on your shelf right now. Number 13. Goya Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Goya is one of the most trusted names in Latin pantries across America. The brand carries genuine cultural loyalty built over decades, and that loyalty has been exploited in the olive oil aisle. Consumer Reports tested 23 olive oils in 2012 and found that Goya failed to qualify as genuine extra virgin. That failure did not come from a fringe publication. Consumer Reports is one of the most rigorous independent product testing organizations in the country, and Goya did not pass its evaluation. The brand sources olives from Spain and blends them for consistency and cost control, the same formula that produced failures across the category. No harvest dates appear on the label. No polyphenol data is published. The brand relies on trust built through decades of other food products to move its olive oil off shelves without subjecting it to the scrutiny that would reveal what is actually in the bottle. For families who trust Goya with everything else in their kitchen, the olive oil aisle is where that trust runs out. The next brand is America's best-selling olive oil, and a professional tasting panel used one word to describe it that no health-conscious shopper ever expects to hear. Number 12. Pompeian Robust Extra Virgin Olive Oil. America's best-selling olive oil, the one in more kitchens than any other brand in the country. Professional tasting panels sat down with it and reached for a word no buyer of extra virgin olive oil ever expects: rancid. Pompeian's affordability makes it the default choice for budget-conscious families, but dominance and quality are not the same thing. Professional evaluators found the flavor profile overly ripe, with minimal nuance and a distinct absence of the fresh green fruitiness that characterizes genuine extra virgin oil. One variant appeared to be rancid outright. That is not a brand at the margins of acceptable quality. That is a brand selling a product that professional evaluators say does not qualify as what the label claims. Pompeian does publish a polyphenol range, 170 to 300 milligrams per kilogram. But that ceiling barely clears the European health claim threshold, the absolute minimum bar for any documented cardiovascular benefit. Pompeian withholds harvest dates and batch data entirely, meaning there is no way to verify whether the bottle on the shelf was pressed recently or is well past the point where its polyphenol content was worth anything. For families buying Pompeian because they genuinely believe olive oil is a healthier cooking fat, the gap between that belief and what the laboratory found is not a comfortable one. The next brand charges significantly more and somehow delivers even less per dollar. Number 11. Colavita Premium Selection Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Colavita sits in the premium section. It has a restaurant industry reputation. Chefs use it. And independent testing conducted in 2013 found its polyphenol content so low it offered almost none of the health benefits implied on every bottle. Colavita's polyphenol content measured at 0.058 milligrams per milliliter, a figure so close to zero it represents essentially no cardiovascular or anti-inflammatory benefit at all. That number came from independent laboratory analysis. Colavita has not published any data to counter it. The mechanism behind that failure is the same one driving every other brand in this section: blending olives from multiple Mediterranean countries to achieve a consistent, inoffensive flavor. The compounds responsible for olive oil's health benefits are the same compounds responsible for its peppery, complex character. Remove that edge, achieve the blandness, and you have removed the benefit along with it. No harvest dates, no acidity levels, no polyphenol data for a bottle in the premium price tier. That silence is the most revealing thing on the label. The next brand has a settled lawsuit and a sourcing story that is almost identical to Bertolli, just with a longer heritage claim on the front. Number 10. Filippo Berio Extra Virgin Olive Oil. A class action lawsuit was settled. The allegation was straightforward. The label said, imported from Italy. The olives came from Greece, Portugal, Spain, and Tunisia, And the only thing Italian about the bottle was where it was filled. 158 years of heritage. And the gap between what the label implies and what the sourcing delivers is where the deception lives. The settlement did not prompt a reformulation or a sourcing change. The bottle still implies Italy. The olives still come from elsewhere. For a brand with a century and a half of consumer trust built into its name, the decision to keep the same misleading language after losing in court tells you everything about how that trust is valued against the cost of changing a label. Filippo Berio's oil lacks the peppery, throat-catching bite that is the physical sensation of polyphenols, the compounds responsible for olive oil's documented cardiovascular and anti-inflammatory benefits. An oil that tastes mild and generic is an oil with very low polyphenol content. No harvest dates, no polyphenol transparency. Shoppers paying for Italian quality are purchasing an illusion built entirely from label design and brand history. The next brand charges over $3 per ounce and still cannot produce a third-party lab result to justify it. Number 9. Brightland Awake Extra Virgin Olive Oil, over $3 per ounce. Bottles designed to sit on a kitchen counter like decorative objects. A social media following built on premium wellness language, and polyphenol levels a preventive cardiologist would find quietly underwhelming. Brightland claims a range of 280 to 330 milligrams per kilogram at the time of harvest, without batch-specific third-party laboratory verification. That range is meaningfully lower than what early harvest olives processed under rigorous cold press conditions can achieve. No published acidity levels. No independent certifications attached to specific batches. What exists is a self-reported range in marketing materials for a product costing more per ounce than most premium single malt scotch. Price is not a polyphenol proxy. Beautiful packaging is not a substitute for a third-party lab result. In a category with almost no mandatory disclosure requirements, a beautiful bottle is the easiest possible way to charge for something you are not required to prove. The same logic that lets Brightland charge a luxury price without independent verification is the same logic that lets every brand below it in this countdown print extra virgin on the label without consequence. The next brand applies that same principle to a spray can. Number 8. Pam Avocado Oil. Cooking spray avocado oil has earned a strong, clean label reputation, and consumers reaching for an avocado oil spray are making a deliberate choice toward cleaner cooking. What Pam delivers inside that can is not that choice. The formulation includes organic grain alcohol for visual clarity, sunflower lecithin to prevent sticking, and chemical propellants to pressurize the canister. These are not trace impurities. They are designed-in ingredients that exist because an engineered aerosol product requires them to function. The person spraying PAM avocado oil onto a hot pan is not applying avocado oil. They are applying a mixture of oil, alcohol, lecithin, and propellant that the front of the can never mentions. The front says avocado oil. The ingredient list on the back says everything the front does not. One brand answered that problem with a single ingredient. That brand is coming up, but first, the standard every remaining brand in this countdown actually meets. What separates the bottom 8 from the top 7-8 brands? 8 different approaches to charging for something they cannot prove is what they claim. No harvest date required by law. No polyphenol disclosure mandated. The phrase extra virgin carries no enforcement without voluntary certification. 2 class action lawsuit settlements in this countdown proved that imported from Italy means only that the oil passed through Italy, not that a single olive was grown there. The second half of this countdown belongs to brands that chose transparency anyway. Brands that submitted to independent testing, printed harvest dates, and published polyphenol data any consumer can verify. They sit on the same shelves as every brand that failed. Most shoppers walk straight past them. Which of these bottles have you been buying? Drop the name in the comments. Tell us how long it has been in your kitchen. And tell us what grocery category you want us to take apart next. The polyphenol standard. The word polyphenol appears on almost no olive oil label in the grocery store. Yet it is the single number that separates a therapeutic oil from an expensive cooking fat. Polyphenols are the biologically active compounds responsible for olive oil's documented effects on cardiovascular health, inflammation, and oxidative stress. They degrade over time, which means freshness is a health variable, not a quality preference. The European Food Safety Authority has established the threshold clearly. 200 milligrams of polyphenols per kilogram is the minimum for a documented cardiovascular benefit claim. Below that number, the oil is not a functional health food, regardless of what the label implies. A best-by date set 18 to 24 months from bottling tells you nothing about when the olives were pressed. A self-reported polyphenol range tells you nothing without a third-party laboratory result attached to a specific batch. Harvest date, verified polyphenol count, third-party certification. Those are the 3 data points every purchase should require. Every brand from this point forward was selected because documented evidence for all 3 exists. The next brand is the first in this countdown to have passed an independent laboratory test, and it sits at Costco. Number 7, Kirkland Signature Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. In the same UC Davis study that exposed rancidity and fustiness across the imported brands in this countdown, one imported oil stood apart. Of all the imported brands tested, not only Kirkland Organic passed the sensory evaluation with all 3 regional samples collected. That is not a minor distinction. It means Kirkland submitted to the same rigorous panel that failed Bertolli, Pompeian, and Colavita, and came back clean on every sensory criterion. Independent testing has found the Kirkland Organic variety contains approximately 370 milligrams per kilogram of polyphenols, placing it above average for supermarket oils and comfortably above the European health claim threshold. The Italian DOP version carries Bureau Veritas certification, adding a layer of verified authenticity uncommon at this price point. The limitation is transparency. Kirkland does not consistently print harvest dates across all its varieties, and the 2-liter format means the oil has more time to degrade after opening than smaller bottles allow. At approximately $22 to $23 for 2 liters, the value is genuine. This is a bottle that passed the test most others refuse to take. It just does not give you everything a top-tier oil should. The next brand does, at a price that makes the entire category make sense again. Number 6, Chosen Foods, 100% pure avocado oil. While Pam was formulating a product that required alcohol, lecithin, and chemical propellants just to function, Chosen Foods asked a simpler question. What if the spray contains only the oil? The answer is a 500-degree Fahrenheit smoke point, non-GMO certification, and glyphosate residue-free verification. The ingredient list reads 100% pure, naturally refined avocado oil, no grain alcohol, no sunflower lecithin, no chemical propellants. Compressed air dispenses the oil, meaning the only substance landing on food is the oil itself. A 500-degree Fahrenheit smoke point means safe performance through high-heat searing, air frying, and full-temperature oven roasting, applications where cheaper sprays break down. The certifications mean the sourcing has been independently tested rather than self-declared. At approximately $6.43 for 4.7 ounces, the modest premium over Pam buys the complete removal of every engineered additive Pam chose to include. Share this with someone who cooks every day and has never thought to read the back of their spray can. The olive oil coming up next passed every test. The fraudulent brands in this countdown refused to take. Number 5, California Olive Ranch, 100% California extra virgin olive oil. While imported brands were failing, University of California, Davis evaluations, and settling class action lawsuits, a California company was printing its harvest date on the bottle and inviting any consumer to verify. California Olive Ranch submitted to the same Davis evaluation that exposed the failures above it in this countdown. It passed on every chemical criterion and every sensory criterion. The California Olive Oil Council seal represents an enforced certification standard guaranteeing 100% domestic extra virgin purity backed by actual testing, not heritage claims or self-reported ranges. Polyphenol content sits at approximately 355 milligrams per kilogram, documented and above the European health claim threshold. The harvest date means any shopper can calculate actual freshness rather than guessing from an arbitrarily set best by date. The flavor reflects the data, fresh and floral, with the complexity that only comes from oil pressed at the right time from healthy fruit. At approximately $17 to $19 for 16.9 ounces, it is one of the most transparent bottles on any shelf in the country. It passed the tests, it printed the date, it earned the seal. The oil coming up next doubles every one of those standards, verified at polyphenol levels that make this one look modest, and it still costs less than Brightland by a significant margin. Number 4. How to read an olive oil label in 30 seconds. 3 things. That is the entire checklist. A harvest date, not a best by date set 18 to 24 months from bottling that tells you nothing about when olives were pressed. A polyphenol count verified by a third-party laboratory result tied to a specific batch, not a self-reported range on a brand website. And a certification seal from an independent body with actual testing standards. The California Olive Oil Council, USDA Organic, or a published lab report. Any bottle missing all 3 is asking for trust in a category where that trust has already been litigated out of court twice. Imported from Italy means only that the oil passed through Italy. Extra virgin without certification behind it is a marketing phrase with no enforcement in the United States. The absence of a harvest date and the absence of polyphenol data are not oversights. They are decisions made by brands that concluded telling you less is more profitable than telling you the truth. Put those bottles back. The number 1 bottle in this countdown gave you all 3 and charged $6 for the privilege. Number 3. Olivia Premium Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. 600 to 1,000 milligrams per kilogram of polyphenols. Developed with cardiologists. Sourced from a single estate in Messina, Greece. Cold pressed within hours of harvest. This is what the brands in the bottom half of this countdown were charging premium prices to pretend to be. No multi-country blending operations, no mystery supply chains. The olives are Koronaki variety, harvested early when polyphenol concentrations peak, and pressed within hours of picking to capture compounds that begin degrading the moment the fruit leaves the tree. The USDA Certified Organic designation confirms sourcing and processing meet an external verified standard. The polyphenol range is verified through published third-party laboratory results, 2 to 3 times above the European health claim threshold, placing this oil in territory the cardiologists involved in its development describe as a functional food rather than a cooking ingredient. At approximately $25 to $30 for 500 milliliters, this is a bottle used raw, drizzled over salads, finished dishes, and bread, where polyphenols remain intact and deliver what the research documents. Used that way, it lasts most households 6 to 8 weeks. And the cost per therapeutic dose falls below most cardiovascular supplements making the same claims on their labels. For anyone who has been paying premium prices to Brightland or Colavita, assuming measurable health benefit was included, that money was buying packaging. This is what it buys when the laboratory results are real. Number 2, the $6 question. Before the number 1 reveal, consider what this countdown has established. A bottle with no harvest date is a bottle hiding its age. A bottle with no polyphenol count is a bottle hiding its potency. A bottle that says imported from Italy may contain olives from 4 other countries, and the settled lawsuits prove it. 2 brands in this countdown are owned by the same Spanish parent company, and between them have generated a $7 million lawsuit settlement, a 20-state product recall, and a €300,000 antitrust fine. A brand with a restaurant reputation delivered polyphenol content so close to zero, the laboratory result was almost embarrassing. And the most expensive bottle in this countdown, more than $3 per ounce, produces a self-reported polyphenol range it cannot verify with independent batch testing. The question was never which oil is the most expensive. It was always which oil actually passed the test. There is only one mainstream bottle in America that did. It costs $6. Number 1. California Olive Ranch, the $6 bottle. Laboratory failures, recalls, antitrust fines, brands charging $30 to deliver nothing independently verified. The number 1 ranked olive oil in this countdown costs approximately $6 at Trader Joe's. Not a specialty grocer, not a boutique health food store, Trader Joe's. That single fact collapses the argument that honest olive oil is a luxury for shoppers with larger budgets. The best tested mainstream olive oil in America sits in a mainstream grocery store at a price that makes every brand in the bottom half of this countdown impossible to justify. You do not need a different budget. You need the information the industry spent years hoping you would never have. California Olive Ranch passed every test the other brands refused to take. The harvest date is on the bottle. The polyphenol content is documented. The certification is enforced. Everything the fraudulent brands withheld, this bottle prints in plain sight. The best olive oil is not the one with the most storied history, the most beautiful bottle, or the highest price per ounce. It is the one that submitted to scrutiny and came back clean. It was on the shelf the entire time. Most people walked past it on the way to something that looked more like what good olive oil is supposed to cost. Flip every olive oil bottle over before it goes into your cart. No harvest date and no polyphenol data means the brand has already given you its answer. Hit like if this changed how you will approach that aisle, and share it with anyone who has been paying extra for a bottle full of promises that a university laboratory already took apart.